Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're going to be taking a look at r/cheating stories, where a cheating wife has a little too much fun during her girls' night out. Oh, great. Another girls' night out story. Well, I guess we know where this is going. Let's begin. My friend's wife cheated on him, and even I'm devastated. Posted by Reddit user Melissa of Finalizing.
My wife and I have a couple we're very close friends with. We've gone out plenty of times, spent lots of time traveling together. We were getting along really well. Recently, they've gone a little bit quiet, so a few days ago I invited my friend, the husband, over to my house for a drink, and he soon told me what's been going on. His wife was recently going distant and going out with her friends a lot, but never wanted to take him with her. Started hiding her phone and texting someone all the time. He confronted her, and she told him after some time that she was not happy with him, and that she fell in love with a coworker that she has more in common with. The worst part is that she didn't even stop doing that after he learned what is going on. They have a long mortgage together that they signed recently, and now my friend basically moved out. He is obviously completely devastated. We did have a good time, and I managed to take his mind off of it here and there, but I could see he was just so sad in between. I hope they manage to go through this somehow, but it doesn't look very good if his wife continues to spend time with her new guy. I thought I knew her well, and I never even imagined her doing something like this. I was shocked when I learned about it. I can't even imagine what my friend is going through. I feel so bad for him. Obviously, I heard only his side of the story, but I have no reason to doubt it. I assured him that he can always call me and talk if he needs to. He told me that he's also seeing a psychologist to help him cope with all of that, and I am very glad he does. I don't know what else I can do for him, though.
OP, you're a good friend. And I hope that you tell your wife to stay the fuck away from that toxic bitch. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? Sometimes this is exactly the kind of behavior I just couldn't understand. You marry someone to build a life with them. You know, a house, a car, maybe some kids. And then you risk all of that and financial ruin just to have an affair. I mean, how stupid can you be? It's a fake relationship with no future that will end just the way it had begun. One of you is going to cheat on the other. I mean, that's just so moronic. So stupid. Really stupid. Okay, back on topic. OP, I feel bad for your friend. Even with therapy, it will be quite difficult to overcome the treason, the feeling of inferiority, the lack of self-esteem. Look, man, just keep in touch with him and listen to all he has to say. That's really the only way you can help him for now. And now for today's second story. My wife cheated on me 2 years ago and we worked through it. Now I want to leave and I feel guilty. Posted by Reddit user Safe Interaction 956.
Just over 2 years ago, my wife cheated on me with a coworker at her work's Christmas party out of town. She told me immediately the morning after. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. This happened pretty much immediately prior to our country going into lockdown, so we were stuck together. I was in a bit of a daze at the time and just kind of went through the motions. I was angry and miserable, but also wanted to understand why she would do it. Hence, it made sense to work through it at the time, seeing as we were seemingly stuck together. To her credit, though, she did everything possible to make it right. She quit her job, cut off all contact with the coworker, offered to go to therapy and counseling, and even admitted to what she did publicly. I never asked her to do this, and her mother and sister are very close to her and were appalled. She became much more loving and considerate and even offered to let me sleep with someone else. I was actually upset with this suggestion, but she was only saying it out of desperation. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, and by all accounts things feel like they're back to normal again. At least for her. She's no longer moping around the house, stepping on eggshells in conversation, breaking down when anything regarding cheating happens. She started crying while we were watching a soap where a wife cheats on her husband. Unfortunately, I feel like this return to normalcy has reopened the wound. I think about that night more these days than I did during the previous 2 years. I don't know why, but I think that society returning to a bit of a pre-2020 state has made me feel like I've gone back in time to that evening. I can't stand to look at her anymore. Not in a she disgusts me way, but in more of a why are you still even here kind of way. I feel guilty for wanting to leave now after all the work she put in, even though logically I know I shouldn't. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting to end the marriage after the work she has put in. I know people will be able to easily say, she made her bed, etc., but I'm still really struggling with the idea of leaving her, for her sake. I don't hate her for it, but I don't think I love her anymore, and I know this will destroy her. Part of me wishes I was strong enough to have left when it happened. Anyone been in a similar situation or have any advice? Thanks in advance.
OP, you can't help the way you feel. I mean, how could you? She betrayed you, cheated on you, had an affair with her coworker, and quite honestly, her efforts to make things right is completely within expectations. Almost all cheaters do this when they get caught. Look, man, ultimately, a relationship is about two people and two sets of feelings. But what she wants to feel is another man's dick. Look, man, staying for her sake helps no one. Stop caring for her feelings. She never cared for yours when she was giving her coworker a blowjob, so why the fuck should you? If you don't love her, then leave. It will hurt in the beginning, sure, but you deserve to be in a place where you can trust and love fearlessly. Staying for the sake of someone never works in a good way. Look, if you're feeling really guilty, just be kind during the breakup, but please, don't stay for some misguided idea that you're the knight in shining armor. That's really gonna fuck you in the ass someday. Now let's listen to OP's update.
Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. I was surprised how much people cared about my benign marriage problems, but it helped me a lot. I checked this account out today to see what the responses were since last week, and was taken aback by the number of people who wanted an update. The day after I posted, I talked to my wife and laid out my feelings. I mentioned some of the points that people on my previous post had articulated very well that resonated with me. I told her whilst I had forgiven her, I was struggling to forget what happened, and the fact we were seemingly going back to normal had triggered something in me, and now I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said that whilst I do appreciate all the work she put in to try and save our marriage, I couldn't continue anymore. I mentioned a point that someone on my previous post said, that whilst we were in lockdown it almost felt easier to just ignore the issue to some degree, as I would always know where she was or what she was doing. But recently, for the first time since it happened, she's going into town and visiting friends, and my mind is just running at 100 miles per hour while she's out. Who is she with? Why is she slightly late home, etc. And I haven't had to confront these feelings before. She cried, I cried. She begged me to stay, I cried again. We spent what felt like hours just sitting together in the living room, not speaking at points. She asked the same questions multiple times. Do I still love her? Will we ever see each other again? Is there anything we can try to make this work? I think eventually she was doing it to delay the inevitable. She's now staying at her mom's house, and I'm going to file for divorce. I know it's easy to lay all the blame at her feet when you're on the outside looking, but I feel just as bad today as I did the day I found out what happened. I am heartbroken again, and know full well I'm going to question myself if I've made the right choice. You can tell me it is the right choice all you like. There is no way I will ever be sure this was the right choice. There are no winners with this shit. Everyone is miserable. Everything sucks, and I'm here reliving the most painful experience of my life for the benefit of a bunch of internet strangers who probably only want to read about the drama and have no reason to care about me personally. I don't mean to come across as bitter. I had lots of genuinely supportive comments on my previous post. I'm just really struggling right now. I won't be using this account or responding here again after this post. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. TLDR. Wife cheated 2 years ago. Originally worked through it, but now I've decided to end the marriage. Everybody loses.
OP, I need you to try to think less about whether this is the right decision, but to think instead about how this was the necessary decision. I mean, you had to do this. You were tormented by this, and it wasn't sustainable. Look, I'm sorry that this has come to this, but I fully understand what you're saying. Sure, you can say that we don't exactly know what happened because we are looking from the outside in. But you know, sometimes, OP, you being in a relationship could also affect your decisions. You know why? Because you are in the relationship, meaning you are close to it. You are so close that sometimes you cannot see the entire picture. That's why sometimes you need an outside perspective for you to make a rational decision. This is where friends and family comes in. You ask them for advice. Look, man, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is you sharing this may help someone in a very similar situation or catch the eye of someone who is thinking of cheating. And if one of you right now is thinking about cheating on their partner, you can go fuck yourself. Look, OP, let it be a cautionary tale of damage that cheating can do. The trauma never goes away, and you're never the same. I wish you can move on from this. Good luck, man. Now for today's final story. Am I the asshole for distancing myself from my daughter after she took her mother's side? Posted by Reddit user SnooOwls8297.
I found out that my wife of 20 plus years was having an affair. I was completely hurt over this and have started divorce proceedings. Obviously, this has been hard on our 4 children, but I cannot spend the rest of my life with someone I can't trust. Before we got married, my wife's family had money and demanded I sign a prenup. I had no problem. But since then the family money has been lost due to bad investments and lawsuits. My wife was a stay-at-home mom for the majority of our marriage. Our youngest child is 19 and because of the prenup, she can't get alimony. In short, my wife will be screwed. The only thing we own together was our house, and while it is paid off, my wife won't be able to afford the upkeep or HOA fees, so she will effectively be homeless. I have no intention of giving her any type of support for any reason. Since serving my wife divorce papers, I have refused direct contact as my lawyer has advised, but she's now playing dirty by getting the children involved. We have 2 boys, 23 and 21, and 2 girls, 25 and 19, and my wife has been pleading with them to get me to agree to halt the divorce proceedings in favor of counseling. After I told my children that I had no interest wasting any more of my life with that woman, they have all essentially backed off except for my oldest, Christy. She's very close to her mother and can't imagine life where her parents aren't married. Christy tells me that her mother realizes her mistake and will do whatever it takes to make things right. She says that I owed it to the family to work things out. I refused and told her that it wasn't her place to make those kinds of demands. Since then, the only time Christy talks to me is when she's sobbing and asking me not to destroy the family. I understand that this is hard for her and offered to pay for therapy so she can cope. But she said there wouldn't be anything to cope with if I wasn't trying to divorce her mother. Since Christy is being too emotional to act within reason and refused therapy, I have been resolved to limit contact until after the divorce. However, my other children are saying that Christy's behavior is getting worse. Am I the asshole for taking a step away from my daughter for a while? Update for more info. Alright, I read a couple of responses and I just wanted to clarify some things. 1. Clearly my "she will effectively be homeless" comment was misinterpreted. So let me set the record straight. Because my wife and I own the house together, so long as we sell the house and split the proceeds, she'll get something. 2. My wife didn't give up her career to raise my children. We could have hired a nanny, but she didn't want that and choose to be a stay-at-home mom for our children. Because of her family money, she was getting a monthly allowance from the estate. Plus I paid for a housekeeper to make things easier on her. 3. Once my wife reached 30, she started getting a monthly allowance from the family estate, and the prenup addressed that so I couldn't claim half. In exchange, she couldn't get alimony. 4. I didn't want my children to get involved in the divorce. My wife decided to do that, and even brought up the reason why as a form of a preemptive strike. I only talk about the divorce when someone else brings it up, which Christy wants to do all the time. 5. I am not abandoning my daughter. I am just lowering contact with her until the divorce is finalized, because she's not letting up on trying to pressure me into taking her mother back, and refuses to go to therapy that I will pay for. 6. Also to the comments asking why my wife cheated, it's a little offensive. I don't know how if that changes anything, or that I should care. However, the guy that she cheated on me with was younger, looked like he couldn't be any older than 30, so take that information and do what you will. Edit update. Mods refused to approve a separate update post, so here's the conclusion. I just wanted to say that I was very grateful to all your kind words and support in how to deal with my daughter. I decided to follow some of your advice and have a scheduled sit down with her to explain that what goes on between her mother and I is not her fault, and that I simply can't ever go back to a woman who deceived me in such a big way. I told her that I try to be as forgiving and empathetic as possible, but I will not ever tolerate people who lies with malicious and selfish intent and try to cut them out of my personal life as much as possible. I was very calm when I said this and tried to be as loving as I could to my child, but it didn't work. Christy ended up breaking down and again tried to convince me not to divorce her mother and just forgive her. I refused and, in the end, went no contact with Christy for a little bit. I only spoke to her again 2 days before my other daughter's, Jane's, birthday through a text asking her to not bring up the divorce, since this was going to be the first time my wife and I would be in each other's presence since I filed. I sent the same text to her mother, and I didn't hear anything from either of them. On Jane's birthday, things were a little tense and awkward, but I thought it was going well. Until my wife decided to be passive-aggressive with a speech about how good it is to have family together during important events. Everyone saw through her crap, and my son, Jack, called her out on it and said that she was selfish to bring this up on Jane's birthday. Christy started defending her mother and Jane, understandably upset, revealed that the only reason Christy was on their mother's side for reconciliation was because she didn't want the fact that she not only knew about the affair, but helped her mother cover it up. There was a big fight that wasn't going to get resolved right then and there. I ended up leaving and was even more heartbroken all over again. Not only did my wife betray me, but my own daughter too. I knew she was closer to her mother than me, and I was okay with that. But this, I don't know what I did to make my eldest daughter so disloyal to me, but I am now resolved to go full no contact with her until after the divorce, and possibly for the rest of my life.
OP, you're not the asshole. Your daughter is an adult and you don't need to stay in this unhappy situation just to stop her tantrums. Your wife made her decisions and now she has to take responsibility for them. Also, about your daughter helping your wife cheat, I would seriously consider going no contact at least for the foreseeable future. That betrayal alone is very devastating, but the actions that she did afterwards, in my opinion, that is simply unforgivable. Good luck, man. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my YouTube channel for you to watch absolutely free. So consider clicking that super thanks just below the video title, or you can use my PayPal in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, make sure to subscribe to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.